Now, in your book, and as well as in your speech, you really promoted this idea that monopolies are beneficial for society as a whole, and that's kind of based on the concept that monopolies are good for the businesses that own the monopoly. But nobody really disputes the fact that monopolies are good for business. Instead, the reason that monopolies are typically excluded from markets is that they have the potential to exploit consumers, which ultimately harms society. So for you, how does the consumer side of the equation factor into your support for monopolies?
Well, I think from the point of view of society, monopolies are bad when they become static. When it's like when you have a static world where nothing changes, then they become purely exploitative. And then it's like the Parker Brothers board game, where there's nothing new ever happens. The deeds just get reshuffled among various monopolists. Or it's like a troll collecting a toll at a bridge, where the monopolist is in effect a rent collector or a tax collector of one sort or another. I think in technology, ideally, we have a dynamic world where you create new things. And so you can sort of say a bad monopoly is a monopoly that creates artificial scarcity. A good monopoly is one that's invented something completely new and thereby is creating something where there's actually more of it rather than less. So for example, when Apple came up with the first iPhone, which was the first smartphone that worked, it was not creating an artificial scarcity in smartphones. It actually created something that worked. And so we have antitrust laws to stop the bad monopolies. And then at the same time, we have copyright laws and patent laws and all sorts of intellectual property laws to encourage people to develop the good monopolies. So I think in general, as long as technology remains fairly dynamic, I don't think we need to worry that much about these monopolies. Certainly, there's always a worry that it gets static at some point. But the government, I think, has often been somewhat too aggressive in prosecuting these cases. They went after IBM in the late 70s, just as things were going to shift from hardware to software. They went after Microsoft in the late 90s, just as things were shifting from the desktop to the internet. So you can hope to get a monopoly for 1 or 2 decades. You probably don't get one that lasts forever in technology.